Pretoria Portland Cement.
What a stock, what a company.
No, what a stock, because you owned the stock, but keeps coming under pressure. I think it was down around 4%. More bad news on the earnings front, expecting to see a drop in headline earnings per share of between 30 to 40%.
Okay, so we've owned this one since it listed in 1896. And you know, over the 100 or so years,
you haven't owned it since 1896. Surely.
So it's, you know, it's quite strongly correlated to cycles in gross domestic fixed investment.
Yes.
So if you like those data series, you can go and look them up on the Reserve Bank website and other economic sites, and you'll see that basically what happens, obviously, with cement cycles is that, you know, you have this big building boom and the country's expanding and so on.
Yeah.
And then construction companies do well, cement just flies off the shelves. Yes. PPC is obviously the largest. I'm not sure if you're aware, it's got like 55% market share. It's got the inland market and Cape. So, you know, it's got all the premier assets. So, you know, it's...
So you're planning, in other words, to ride this downturn out. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I mean, what's interesting about retailers and riding those cycles is that those are like 3-4 year cycles in interest rate turns. But the building cycle, for those that hasn't noticed, is like a 7 to 10 year cycle. So the problem is when the going gets rough, you've got to decide if you've got that kind of patience. Now we do in our operation, but many don't.
To me,
many don't. I can assure you, many don't. People who say that they have a long-term patient perspective, when they get put under pressure, I was being told today that BOE and other brokerage firms phoning all their clients today to say, PPC, it's a bad one, sell. But you can't do that. You can't be the one selling at the bottom.
You must be happy as well, because Naspers is up around 5.3% today on the back of Tencent. But we've seen this kind of volatility before. We see good news coming through from Tencent, and then we see Tencent saying, yes, we've had fantastic earnings, but we're really worried about where revenue is going to be coming from. And then you see Naspers falling on the back of this. Johnny Lambredi is saying, yes, great company, but worried about valuations.
Look, I mean, if Facebook was worth 10 billion last year and is now worth 75 billion, then what is Tencent worth? If Groupon was worth $2.50, you know, a year and a half ago, but is planning an IPO for $15 billion, you know, then what is Tencent worth? At the moment, all you can say, it's worth what it trades at in Hong Kong. And from Naspers' point of view, you just buckle up and go along for the ride. We think that that social media stuff is fabulous. You know, I love spending time on Twitter.
You're permanently on Twitter, Paul.
Exactly. And my,
every time I'm on Twitter, you're on Twitter.
My daughter is permanently on Facebook. So, you know, what's not to like?
Okay, let's delve into BHP Billiton's quarterly update. Coal being that nagging worry.
No, I didn't notice that coal was a worry. Maybe I didn't read the detail closely.
Paul, you never worry, though.
Oh, you mean the bad weather in Australia? Well, I don't think that's going to last forever. For me, the most significant thing about Billiton to say right now is that they're planning to double the iron ore production in Western Australia. They're going to turn the outback into one enormous hole and send it all to China in a float boat. I mean, it's just incredible, because even if the iron ore prices just hold these current levels, that company could be worth 2 or 3 times what it's worth now. And I think the market's taking a while to kind of work that out. I know I'm on the optimistic fringe with regard to this sort of thing, but I think the numbers speak for themselves in terms of iron ore consumption.
So let me ask you this, with regards to what we're seeing on the equity front, and we've seen quite a nice rally after you mentioned the world was ending on Monday. Things have shifted.
After I denied that the world was ending on Monday.
Yes, after you denied that the world was ending on Monday. What if the world does come to an end, when quantitative easing comes to an end, and we see money taken off the table? And I ask you this because perhaps some should be winding down their equity exposure ahead of the anticipation of a possible pullback in excess liquidity from the US.
Yeah, so I noticed, for example, that if you watch Terminator 1 movie, you know, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and, you know, John Connor, the first one, right? They said that the date when Judgment Day happens, when the bombs go off and the machines take over, that's in fact tomorrow. It's Thursday, the 21st of April 2011. Go back and look at the original movie. So, I mean, if you're worried about that sort of thing, I suggest you call your broker in the morning and sell, because, you know, tomorrow could be Judgment Day. Huh?
That's not a very good strategy and not very good advice, I would say.
The world is not going to end. It's not going to end tomorrow. It's not going to end in 2012 when the Mayan calendar runs out. It's never going to end.
I'm not worried about the world ending, Paul. I'm worried about a pullback in equities on the back of the US pulling out the excess liquidity that has propped up not only our market, but the bond market, the commodity market as well.
Yeah, but I mean, equity valuations are following corporate earnings, and we know that corporate earnings are strong because global economies are strong.
And
so
cheap money as well, which is
people
pushing.
talk about that, but for me, the underlying story, I don't know, we could carry on debating this until 8 o'clock, but I guess it's a question of what you believe.
Yes.
And on balance, I think if you look over time, people would be better off worrying less about the headlines. Whether it's WikiLeaks that we've forgotten about now, whether it's the Icelandic explosions, all these things that come and go that we worry about, S&P's downgrade, it's all just, the noise. Filter out the noise and try and look for the underlying signal.
Look for the good news, Paul. Yes.